Okay, welcome to the Sparkbooth creativity class. We're going to go through creating layouts from start to finish within the Sparkbooth layout editor and a little bit of some creating layouts 101, allowing guests to select different photo layout styles like square, wide, and or portrait as a choice. So that's what we're doing here. Now I am going to, hopefully everybody can see my screen. Okay, here's what we're going to review. We're going to review how to create layouts from scratch. Obviously, when you go into the photo layouts window, you'll see a whole lot of layouts that are all built in. Now I have a whole lot of layouts that I have created. I mean, hundreds. Okay. Hello, Sean. If your mic's on, can you click on your mic to turn it off? I just kind of started, so here's what I was reviewing. We're going to do photo layouts. When you do photo layouts, there's a bunch of them that are built in. Obviously, they're not shown here because I've got them all hidden. In the eyeball, you can poke them in the eyeball, and I hid a bunch of the ones that are built in because I don't use those. But yet, I do have an awful lot of layouts that are already built in here. So let's get started with how to build a layout. Now the first thing you have to understand is what a layout is. A layout is basically a sandwich. When you create a sandwich, most everybody has, you start with a piece of plain old white bread, okay, and then you add stuff to it. A layout works exactly the same way, okay? So when you do a layout in the layout editor, we're going to show you exactly how that all works by starting from scratch. Okay, and I will walk through all of the icons across the top so that you know what each one is. If you start a layout new, it pops up a window over here where you give it a name, you select the paper size, you select whether it's going to be portrait up and down or landscape wide like the one that's in the background. Okay. Now I'm going to explain this here a little better with a graphic image that I have. And this basically is where you've selected the new layout. You name the new layout and describing the difference between portrait and landscape. Basically, a portrait is up and down and a landscape is horizontal. Okay. Over in the widescreen, this is the photo size. This is where you would click on that and you select either square, wide photo, widescreen, portrait, 4x3 or 3x4. Those are the different types of photo boxes that you'll be using. Okay. There's also this strip layout printed double box that you can check. If you're going to do a layout that is a double strip, up and down vertical 2 strips are the old way of doing it. Okay, people still do it all the time, and a lot of people love that. But you can also do a horizontal double strip, 2 strips, because your paper printer will cut it. Whether it's horizontal or vertical, it's still cutting down that middle of the 4-inch width. Whether it's up and down, 4 inches wide, or side to side, 4 inches from top to bottom. All right? So if you were creating a single strip layout, okay, the old way of doing it was always in the layout editor, you would do a portrait up and down layout, whether you pick the photo box, then you put a name in here. I'm just calling it CC2, and I click OK. And it brings up that white piece of bread, okay? Now, if I were creating a double strip layout here, I would add the photo box, and it brings in a photo box at exactly half the width of the full layout. I would never make the photo boxes half the width because that's edge to edge if you're doing a double strip, okay? You can grab the corner and make it bigger. Grab the corner and make it bigger or smaller. And you'll notice over here on the right-hand side, the width and height is changing exactly to a smaller size. I'm going to take this down to 560. And the reason I'm going to 560 is I know that a single strip down the left side is 600 wide. Okay. If you need to see that, over here on the bottom right, there is a section that says guide, which is control and the letter G right here, toggle center guides. So if I hit control and the letter G, it will put in a center guide down the middle horizontally and down the middle vertically. So now I can kind of eyeball where that is. But knowing that this photo box is 560 and the full width is 600, I need to be 20 away from the left, and that would be the X. The X moves it left and right. Okay, so if I put this at 20, it will be 20 away from the left and 20 away from the right, which is 40, plus 560, which is 600. Now, when you bring in the next photo box, it will bring it in at the exact same size, right in the middle of the window, and you can line it up over here. You can move it over here, and usually as soon as you get it lined up, it'll usually bring up a double line. Of course, it's not doing that, but I'm going to put this at exactly 20 over here on the right for the X. Now I got the lines showing me that those are lined up the same. I'm going to grab in a third photo box and put it right down here, about the same distance away, and make it 20. And if I were to bring in, now I brought in the lunch meats, okay? Now, if I decided I wanted to change my white bread in the background, I have a few options here. One of them is basically clicking on the color box over here and make it any color in the rainbow that's over in here, which is kind of cool, okay? But there's actually a better way than that. The little box over here that says generate a background, nobody ever uses. Everybody always clicks on the paper clip to go to get to a folder with the backgrounds in it. And they go find their background and say, oh, okay, I got a background over here. Well, there's actually a better way now, okay? Instead of doing that, you now have a way of putting those backgrounds in separate folders, okay? There are folders that are built in, okay, that have images, and one of them, like backgrounds, these backgrounds are built in already, okay? You can pick any one of those. And even though it's an up and down layout, when you click on one, it will populate it. And if it were at 0, it's taking the centerpiece of this and making it fit, okay? The rotation, okay? But you can also create your own background gallery, okay? Which I have done here. If I were doing a double strip vertical like this, I've created my own little gallery with a bunch of them already in here. And they were the same ones that I would have used before in a folder called backgrounds on my computer. Okay, so I can actually have backgrounds pre-created in the folder that I don't have to go to my other area for. All right, so basically I'm just going to grab a simple background in here, something that's not too fancy, okay, and click create. It automatically will populate sometime the background. All right, so now we've got a piece of rye bread with lunch meat. All right, text. I'm going to go through the text a little bit up here. In the text, it puts it in the middle of the screen. You can make the box any size you want, okay? And I would suggest you, once you put in whatever your text is and get it to the size, crop the box down to a smaller, to be as tight around that box as you can. Now, you type in whatever you want it to say over here. Bob and Sue. Okay, font. Whatever font you have on your computer, it can use. The fonts are not built into any software. So if I scroll down here to a fancy one called, let me find it, Bank Script. There's a fancy font, okay? It needs to stand out a little more. I can make it bold. I can make it italic. I can even underline it, okay? So basically, you can do that. Colors, any color in the rainbow, okay? Blue. All right? Once I get that the way I want it, I can crop the box, grab the corner, and make the box a little smaller, move the box to where I want it, and these are just the basics of making a layout. And then once I get that right where I want it, I can now, that I have this selected, I can add an effect. And an effect would be something like bevel, drop shadow, or glow. Example from drop shadow, we'll start with, that's the simplest. It puts in a drop shadow over here, okay? Now, because of, I'm in 7.0, okay? Also in 6.0, it's also available as up here as split screen. When you click on it, you can actually now zoom in to get a closer view, scroll it down. I can now see my text a lot better, okay? If I wanted to make that drop shadow not black, I can make it any color. So if I wanted to be a gray color, make the blue a darker blue, make it a darker blue, okay? I can angle that drop shadow. I can make the distance away from it so that it actually goes farther away, okay? But the angle of the shadow moves it from the bottom right, and it's shifting around to the bottom left, and it's shifting around to the top left. So you can actually shift that shadow so it's in a different area, all right? Instead of a shadow, if you wanted to put like a glow, now when it's called glow because it starts with red, but you can make that glow any color you wanted. If you wanted it to have a white outline, okay, and it's kind of hard to see a white outline. Let me put it a little darker gray. Gray's not working there. Darker, any other color, red. It actually can make like an outline glow. And the larger you make the strength all the way up to 20, you can also make it bleed outward so that it really fills the gap. Okay. When I'm putting some a glow around stuff, I will not go anything more than 10 and 20. And in this case, for text, I would keep it down about 4. Okay. And I'm going to make it glow white. Now, speaking of that, if I were to click on a photo box, it also has effects, okay, like drop shadow, okay, or glow, okay. And what's nice with that, I can make this glow white and put a white, on white, and put a white border at 20 and at 10, and now it has a nice white border around it. Go back up, click this one, back, glow, white, put it up to 20, put it on 10. Click on number 1, scroll it up a little higher so you can see it. Add effect, glow, white, 20, 10. Let me take it back to full screen so you can now see it. So now we have somewhat of a layout that's got 3 photos and some text at the bottom. You also have the ability to add in an image file. Okay, so if you wanted to bring in something from an image file that you had over here, such as graphic images, and I wanted to bring in a rose petal, okay, It has to be transparent for it to be seen through around the outer edges. I forgot to mention with the photo boxes, the text, and image files that you bring in, they also have the ability to rotate. Okay? You got on the right hand side, same as the text, you can rotate it. Okay? And if you're trying to get it back to level, it's over here listed under the A for angle, and at 0 is when it's level. Okay? This one's not level. It's 0. But the same thing with the photo box. Angle them any way you want, move in and around. By the way, if by chance you made a mistake, I didn't want to move that. Down in the bottom right, control the letter Z over here. Undo. It moves it back. Well, I don't want to rotate it. I control when the letter Z goes backwards a few times, probably at least 10, so that you can undo mistakes that you have done. Once you have this double strip layout created, okay, you can preview the double strip layout. So I created one side at a time that was up down on the whole top. Then you can click on the eyeball and preview. But right now, if I preview this without checking display split, it will show the whole layout. And it'll look like this. Okay? But you would want to have the display split check and then hit preview. Even though the guide, the grid line guide is on there, it's not in the layout itself. It won't show that line at all. So now you can see, oh, that looks beautiful, just the way I want it. Okay? Once you've created the one side, you can grab everything, select all, control in the letter A. Nothing happens, but it has selected everything by putting square dots in the upper top and the bottom. You'll see there's a box around everything. Then you can, after you've selected all, you can copy the items by hitting Control and the letter C. You don't see anything happen. But now when you hit Control and the letter A, I'm sorry, Control and the letter B, it pastes everything. If you look closely, you'll notice that everything has shifted slightly downward and to the right. Okay? You can actually take your keyboard, hold down the control key, and hit the arrow left one time, and everything moves to the left exactly 10 pixels. That's how far it moves. Holding down the control key and pressing it up, now it's directly on top of the other one. Now I need to move it all the way over to the right, holding down the control key and holding down the arrow right key. It's moving 10 pixels at a time until I can eyeball it to be perfect. Right there, it looks good. And if I click away from everything, I let go. I click on box number 3. This one should be 20 pixels away. Just like that one. This one says 618. Okay, it should say 620. Let me get this correct. But everything else, this one is 33 pixels away from the left, and this is 633 pixels away, because halfway is 600. So now when we preview it, we're still only going to see one side of the layout. But when we exit the layout editor, okay, it saves it within the layouts here, or you can actually export the layout file to save it in another place. But right now when I close this, you'll see that back over here in the photo layouts main screen, you have your full layout. Now, that's the way a lot of people have been doing their layouts for the double strips for a long time. A shortcut to do that would be this here. And I'm going to create a whole new layout, and I'm going to call this CC2 1. CC2 1. Okay? Letting me know that I'm going to do a portrait strip, 4x6, widescreen, same as we had, everything the same we had before. But instead, I'm going to click on Strip Layout Printed Double. And what that does is it opens up a single strip window, a skinny piece of white bread that you have to put your photo boxes in. And these photo boxes will need to be made bigger. They come in at half the size of the window. I'm going to make this 540 this time because I want to make it 30 away from the left. Over here, you can move it around with your hands, and I want to make it at least 30 away from the top. The Y is from top moving down, and the X is from the left moving over. When I bring in my next photo box, I can line it up here, and it's at 30. Bring in my next photo box, bring it in here, and put it at 30. And I'm only going to make 3 photo boxes. I'm going to add the same kind of text I did before, Bob and Sue. Really quick and simple. Bob and Sue, try to make them smaller so they can fit in the skinny strip. Make them down to 80. Okay, Bob and Sue. I'm not even going to change the font this time. And I'm going to add that same old rose that I had it added before. Where did it go? Right here. Add that rose, put it down here at the bottom. Okay? But now, instead of putting in a color background, I need a single strip background. Well, basically, even though you see I did add some in here, okay, I also have 2x6 vertical backgrounds that's only going to do a half, okay? I'm going to put it on to 0 so you can see it just the way it should look. All right, it will actually fill the screen. Why are these going to fill in the screen? I know why. It's on a 4x6 double. Let me get the create on this one here. And it should fill the background with this background image, just like that. And now when you preview it, you don't have to check a box over here. If you preview it, it's only going to show you the single side strip. But by creating it this way, you have actually saved yourself a lot of time. All the other things can be done. But when you close the photo, the layout editor window, you'll see that it is actually creating a double strip. You don't have to do it twice. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do real quickly here is get over to here to participants and see, is anybody over, Sean, are you there? Gotta call Sean. Give me a second. I don't know, you were stuck in the hallway or something, Sean? You weren't around.
I don't know.
It
wouldn't. I'm here now, but it just froze. Oh. I don't know what happened.
Okay, well, I was doing the session and I had to come in here. Can you see my screen on your screen?
Yeah, I can see it now. Okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna mute your mic. If you need me at the bottom down here, there is a microphone for you. You can unmute your mic at any time. Okay. So let me just get this out of the way. Go back to where I was at over here. I was in the layout editor showing how the layouts can be done. And this is being recorded, and if I'm lucky enough, it will record it, save it someplace where I can find it. All right, where was I at? Okay, now back inside the layout editor, let's go over some of the different things that can be done. let's start with the icons. First folder on the left. You can import a layout, okay, which means a layout that you have saved before, and that layout would be something like, let me go down in here. I have a folder called layouts. These are a bunch of different layouts that I've created over time, okay? Some for me, some for other people. Let me see if I'm just gonna take a wild chance here and grab one. This is a BV. Now let me grab this one here, click open. So when you open it, it brings that layout in. So you can actually rename the layout, okay? Even though it's a layout you did for somebody else, there's a pencil here to rename it for the new bride and groom or whoever you're doing it for. So you can rename it, and then you go into the actual text, change the text, change the font, change the date, whatever, change the background image, okay, and the background image that was used here was over here, okay, and as I said before, instead of getting it from my computer, I have now added a bunch of layouts, and I would need a 4x6 horizontal background, and here's a bunch in here that I have created and saved. Instead of looking for them on my computer, they're now built into my software. So if I wanted to use this one here as a double strip and click create, it replaces that background, a new background. It's really cool. Also, all of these backgrounds that I have in here called 2x6 horizontal, 2x6 vertical, 4x6 horizontal, 4x6 vertical, all of these are going to be available for anybody that wants them because I have saved them, and they will all be posted on the Sparkbooth users group files folder, and you'll be looking for files similar to, let me see if I can find it over here. I can't change windows. Cancel. But I will have them there. I'll make a link on there so you can see where they're all at. All right, so that's these couple files. This is to create a new one, widescreen. When you change this from widescreen to portrait, it's going to a new directory where the portrait photos are. In the past, when we were in a new file folder, the only files that were available to the guest to use are portrait files, like these here. These are all portrait style layouts using portrait photo boxes, okay? But there is now a way for you to actually make sure that down here under the lightning bolt, select by current photo size. That box is checked by default. When it's unchecked, okay, and you set it up for the guest to create, for the guest to, let me make sure I'm in the right screen here. In the general screen, there is guest selection. In the guest selection screen, if you want the guest to be able to select photo layouts, and guest selection, change photo layout screen. How many layouts do you want them to see on the screen at a time? The smaller the number, the larger the photo, the larger the number, the smaller the photo. I've got mine set to 4. So when if I were to exit the settings here, it's a portrait window, but when I start the session says, which layout do you want to use? And if you look closely here, this is a portrait style on the right. This is a widescreen on the left. This one's a square one up here. And this one here is a double strip up and down or a double strip horizontal. You could have different layouts set up for the people. including layouts such as, and I'm going to switch over because there's an odd size in here called 4x3 and 3x4 once it loads. Normally I have this preloaded. Here's a full 4x, this is a full portrait photo right here. One more, let's take one more look, and this is a 3x4 photo. It's not a wide photo in portrait, so it's not a portrait photo. The one on the right side is a 4x3. It's an odd size. I think it's like a Polaroid size or something someone requested. John made it available. It's not as big as a wide photo box. But when they select the photo that they want, I'll go over one more and it should take me right back to the beginning. I'm going to take this one here. And then once I click next, it will go into doing the session.
Here we go.
They have the option of starting or stopping, and I'm going to hit cancel. All right, I canceled that session. Back in the settings, under photo layouts, you now have the ability to actually give them the option of different, but you'd have to make sure that you have only the layouts you want them to use as favorites. Okay, see the hearts by these three? Those are the only portrait ones I have. And you would have to go through each one of these and make sure that you're only allowing the favorites here. To unfavorite whatever is on the screen, if it's this one and you don't want it to be seen, you can click on each one and go to it and uncheck the red heart. Or a faster way would be to go into the lightning bolt, hide or unhide layouts, and this shows the four red hearts that are in the square format, and you would uncheck the ones you don't want them to use. All right, so then those layouts would not be shown in the favorites up here at the top. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Let's see where else we need to go from here. I'm going to get back into my folder over here for a second. A couple cautions we need to review. This box here has a lot of information in it. And this box here is basically in 6.0, it's up here, and it only has the preview eyeball and the import layout, or the hide or show eyeball, and the line with the cross through it is the same as the trash can down here, which basically is the delete photo. I'm sorry, the line through it is a clear layout cache, and then there's a delete, and there's a select by current photo size for photo layout selection screen button and hotkey. The one that is a big caution, on some of the software versions, there is a circle icon either out here or inside of here. This is a very big caution. You want to make sure that you understand how that circle arrow icon works. Okay, when you click on it, it defaults to the layout that is in your photo layouts window. When you leave the photo layouts window, what is ever there is your default layout, the layout that's going to be used for this event. Okay? If you don't make any kind of a change to the circle icon, it will stay on that layout until somebody changes it. If you give them an option to change it, they can change it to a different layout if you give them that option. But when that session has done, it reverts back to this default layout. Okay? Now, whatever you select with this circle icon, a warning will come up here on the screen. Okay? The default layout warning is the layout will be reset to this layout, which is this name, at the end of the session, no matter what layout was selected for the session that they just did. Okay? If you change that to next favorite layout, the warning comes up and it says warning. The layout will be changed to the next favorited layout at the end of the session, which means if that box is checked at the end of the session, it's going to automatically change to a different favorite layout. And when that session's done, it's going to change to the next favorite layout. And then when that session's done, it's going to change to the next favorite, and so on and so forth. So all those that have a red heart by them will be changed one after the other if you do next favorite. A warning will pop up that you got to watch for. Random favorites layout, identical situation, but instead of the next one, it's just going to randomly grab a favorite. Okay? So you want to be very cautious. Same layout. Same layout is a little bit of a caution because whatever this layout is in here when you start, if nobody ever changes it, it will stay on. But if somebody changes to another layout, when it comes to the end of the session, the layout will not be reset or changed at the end of the session. If the guest changes the layout, it will still be selected, which means whatever that last person did, you're the next person stuck with unless they know how to change it to another layout. So this is basically a little bit of a caution and danger, Will Robinson, okay, when you use that, all right? So basically you want to remember the circle, arrow, take caution. Each one of these have different things to them. And down here where it has the green arrow, okay, if it's checked, it will select by current photo size, which means in this window here, it's selected for square. So it's only going to select the square favorites you have. And by default, that is checked. So whatever you're leaving in the default window here in the photo layouts, okay, and that box is by default checked, it will only give them the options to check the square photo boxes, square photo box type layouts. But if you uncheck it to select any favorite photo size, okay, so I'm going to go back into the layout editor here, and I'm going to put this back on the widescreen, and I'm going to check on the box here, okay, and close the window. And now when I start a session, you'll notice my window pops up, select one. They're all widescreen format, okay? No matter, these are the only favorites I have for widescreen photos. There's no portrait, there's no square, okay? So that way you have an idea how that works.